What's been your biggest accomplishment, you think?
Bouncing back, number one, is refusing to listen to the negative chatter in my own head, refusing to listen to other people's perception of me, creating something from absolutely nothing. So I gotta, you know, there's the books, there's the TV, there's all that stuff. But my biggest accomplishment is being willing to give myself 1,000 second chances. And every time I got to 999, I pressed reset.
Yeah.
I didn't ask permission, I gave notice. Yeah. At some point, I have to stop asking, can I be great? Can I be brilliant? Can I be okay and still be accepted? I just stopped asking permission and just gave notice unapologetically, and not in a braggadocious way, not in a way that shrunk anyone else, in a way that said, I only got one life, and I'm gonna ride this one till the wheels fall off. And then all the other stuff came.
Wow.
As a result of a decision I made.
Right, but it was a decision.
It was a decision, but it didn't come from, you know, a motivational experience. It didn't come from an inspiring teacher. It came from hitting rock bottom.
Okay, let's talk about that, because this was the thing that when you and I were talking that really struck me, because I had been there, and I just wanted to hear how you had turned it around, because you can be rock bottom and turn it around. That's the best turnaround, because at rock bottom, hell ain't no other way to go. You got to go up, so that's a great time. You climbed to the top. Tell everybody about this journey.
I struggled all through school. The last time I took English class, I got a fail. And my English teacher said I was the weakest writer she ever met in her entire life. The last time I took a speech class, same year, I got a D- in speech, and my speech teacher said, Lisa, quote unquote, I recommend you never speak in public, that you get a desk job. So that was the beginning of my life. That was my 19-year-old experience. And then I go on and I'm trying to figure it out, I was obedient. I went and got a job in accounting. I was in the collection department for 7 years. Y'all don't know, I'm dangerous to accounting. I'm just dangerous. And I'm in collections, and you know, you should never put a broke person in collections. Never, because everybody's reasons sound good to me. I know it sounds funny, but it was real. Not only did I say, girl, don't you worry about paying that, I'm gonna take your name off the list. Somebody went to jail because I was in collections. I got fired from 5 different jobs. And then I got pregnant with my son unexpectedly. And then at 8 months, my son's father went to prison. I had to get on government's assistance to have my baby. I was on WIC, Women, Infant, and Children, to feed my child. And when my son was 8 months old, I went to the ATM to get $20 out the bank because I didn't have any Pampers for him. And in order to get $20 out, you got to add $20 in. I had $11.42. And I still can't tell the story without getting emotional because it's my story. For 2 days, I had to wrap my son in a towel. But something happened, Steve, in those 2 days. I was at rock bottom. I was broke, and I was broken. Inglewood, California. My son laying on his back at 8 months. I have a towel over him, and I have my hand on his stomach saying, don't you worry, Jaylani. Mommy will never be this broke again. And I made a decision. I was bankrupt. And every stinking thinking I had, I was bankrupt in trying to protect my pride. I was bankrupt in trying to be all that in a bag of chips and a bowl of grits, falsified. I was bankrupt in trying to not ask anyone for help. I was bankrupt in everything that was holding me and keeping me where I was. I've always talked a good game, but I wasn't doing anything with my gift. And all that thing about potential, I was tired of having potential. I wanted to have my now. And I looked at that baby at 8 months and I said, I want to transform your life. Because you didn't ask to come into this chaos. As an African-American male child in South Central Los Angeles, with a single mother whose father's in prison, he had a 66% chance of going to prison himself. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. So if I have to be willing to drastically transform myself so that I can become the woman that I know I can be. Right. And that's what I began to do. I was radical.
What did you do, Lisa? What did you do to change your life?
First, I realized I couldn't grow with people who were struggling like me. That whole, I don't want to leave nobody behind. No, I don't want to stay with y'all.
Right.
You don't even want to be here. Like, I don't want to be the queen of this block.
Yeah.
And I became okay with the fact that It doesn't make me any less committed to my community, committed to my culture, committed to my family. The best thing I can do for you is not stay here with you.
That's right.
When I got that, I went to places I'd never seen before. I went to conferences where people were talking about money, talking about prosperity, talking about, it was like, no habla español. What y'all talking about? ROIs and PPMs and term agreements and capital fundraising and bottom lines and what is it? What is, I'm gonna stay until I learn what you're talking about. I went to the same conference 42 times. And there I raised $532,000 in capital for my company, Start My Dream. And my dream was to transform teen lives. I want to teach teens how to fall madly in love with themselves and how to make integrity-based decisions. And I got it funded, and I started working. And that was the beginning of me rescuing myself. I realized that I am my rescue. No one else is my rescue.
If I think I cannot do it, I already canceled it. Yeah, some really crazy things that I believe I can do it, I already do it.
Like what?
Like jump over the building, crash by the hovercraft, jump from the light 72 feet high with no net. And there's so many things. Even today, I look at the old film, look at myself. Sometimes really smile. I'm glad. Even I know I get hurt, I broke my ankle, I'm so happy I did it. If today, I cannot do it anymore. Yeah, so whatever you want to do, I always tell the students, whatever you do when you're young, do it. You might get hurt. Or you're learning a piano, you're learning a martial art. Between 10 or 20, 10 years, learn whatever you can. Those years, like me, I just do. 10 years later, now, forever, the things you learn or the success I have forever. Don't regret one day, I should do it right now. No, it's too late. Do it when you were young.
I had 3 rules pretty much that I stuck with practically all the time. I'd learned these prior to coming to UCLA, and I decided they were very important. One was never be late. Never be late. Later on, I had certain things that I had the players, if we're leaving someone, they had to be neat and clean. There was a time when I made them wear jackets and shirts and ties, and then I saw our chancellor coming to school in denims and turtlenecks, and I thought it was not right for me to keep this other, so I let them they had to be neat and clean. And I had one of my greatest players that you probably heard of, Bill Walton. He came and gets the bus, we were leaving for somewhere and to play, and he wasn't clean and neat, so I would let him go. He couldn't get on the bus. He had to go home and get cleaned up to get to the airport if he could. So I was a stickler for that. I believed in that. I believe in time, very important. I believe you should be on time, but I felt at practices, for example, we start on time, we close on time. The youngsters didn't have to feel that we're going to keep them over. When I speak at coaching clinics, I often tell young coaches in the coaching clinics, more or less, they'll be the younger coaches getting in the profession, and most of them are young, you know, and probably newly married. And I tell them, don't run practices late, because you'll go home in a bad mood, and that's not good for a young married man to go home in a bad mood. When you get older, it doesn't make any difference, but so I did believe on time. I believe starting on time, and I believe closing on time. And another one I had was not one word of profanity. One word of profanity, and you are out of here for the day. If I see it in a game, you're going to come out and sit on the bench. And the third one was never criticize a teammate. I didn't want that. I used to tell them I was paid to do that. That's my job. I'm paid to do it. Pitifully poor, but I am paid to do it. Not like the coaches today, for gracious sakes, no. It's a little different than it was in my day. But those are the 3 things that I stuck with pretty closely all the time. And those actually came from my dad, and that's what he tried to teach me and my brothers at one time.
You are responsible for your life. I've known this. I've known this since
The Color Purple. In 1985, I've probably told you the story when I did The Color Purple, but in 1985, I did The Color Purple. Prior to that, I had read the book, Larry. Now, this is when I got The Secret thing, but I didn't know it was called The Secret. I read the book, The Color Purple, and then went out and got books for everybody else I knew. And I was obsessed about this story. Obsessed about it. I ate, slept, thought all the time about The Color Purple. I moved to Chicago. I get a call from a casting agent asking, would I like to come and audition for a movie? I've never gotten a call in my life from anybody for a movie or anything like that. And I say, is it The Color Purple? And he says, no, it's a movie called Moonsong. And I go, well, I've been praying for The Color Purple. And I go to the audition, and of course it was The Color Purple. I audition. I don't hear anything for months. And I go to this fat farm, and I think it's because I'm fat, because I was about 212 pounds at the time. And I think I didn't get the call back because I'm so fat. And I'm at this fat farm, and I'm praying and crying, saying to God, help me let this go. Because I wanted to be in this movie so much. I wanted it, I wanted it, I wanted it. I thought I was going to be in the movie. There's all these signs that I should be in the movie. And I go to this fat farm, and I'm praying and crying. And as I'm on the track singing this song, I surrender all, I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. I'm singing that song, praying and crying. A woman comes out to me, and she says, on the track, it's raining, and she says, there's a phone call for you. And the phone call was Steven Spielberg saying, I want to see you in my office in California tomorrow. Now, what I learned from that, that moment absolutely changed my life forever, because I had drawn The Color Purple into my life. I didn't know Steven Spielberg. I didn't know Quincy Jones, who saw me in Chicago. In 1984, he was there for a lawsuit that was being filed against Michael Jackson because he'd been working on his Thriller album. And he saw me on AM Chicago and said, that's Sophia. Now, I didn't know him. I didn't know anybody that had anything to do with that. But I knew that I had drawn that into my life, and it changed the way I thought about my life forever.
Dear son-in-law, Miss Seeley, you keep on advising him like you do.
It is very true that the way you think creates reality for yourself. There are other factors going on, so it's not everything, but you really can change your own reality based on the way that you think.
Yeah, I had graduated college, and I have, you know, this degree in fine arts, and my dad saw me coming and going to work every day, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, making a living. What are you talking about? And I was in a transitional period because my son and father and I, we had just broken up, and I had this degree, and I was just living. And my dad saw it, and he was like, how do you expect to catch fish on dry land? And I was like, what? He always spoke in metaphors. I was like, can you just speak plain English? He was like, how are you gonna get acting jobs when they're not here? You need to go to LA, where the jobs are. So my family threw a party. We were broke. They raised $700, and I moved to LA, and I took my son in. My dad, may rest in peace, he was like, maybe you should leave Marcel here. And I was like, I'm not leaving my son. It's my kid. And then I got out and freaked out. I was like, maybe I should send him back. And my dad was like, no, that's your blessing. He's your blessing. He's gonna keep you focused. You were right. Your instinct was right. You should have taken him. So $700. My son is now 21. He's in school now. He's in the So that's a good story. That's amazing.